Okay, we are doing some official load testing this morning. Here's my weight. Let's see how it works. That's okay, we don't have to go fast. Alright guys, day 10 out here. I spent most of the day yesterday undoing the mess that I made on day 8. I drilled over half my holes wrong and I had to go ahead and re-drill and re-tap about half of them after I welded up the bad holes. So, not super productive yesterday, but you know, you live and you learn. Here we are. What yesterday really did for me is just help me kind of catch up on some of the little odds and ends around here. I got the caps for the end of the cold rolled steel on. I welded together the rack gear that the motors are going to engage with, and I went ahead and pulled these motors out and started taking a look at them. Got the gear reduction units mocked up, as you can see, and I'm going to go through here and actually pull them apart and put them back together with Loctite this time. Also, if you take a look here, as I spin this, see how it's rubbing on this bolt right here? I really don't love that. So I'm gonna have to get this gear cheated over that way a little bit more before I Loctite it in. Because once I Loctite it, that sucker's gonna be in there forever. And this red stuff, I believe, is the type that you have to heat up in order to get it out. And any sort of heat I put in there is going to melt that belt, and I don't know if it'll damage the motor, but anyways, I don't want to mess around with heating stuff up in there. Then once we get these back together, we can mount them on our table. This motor goes there, this motor goes up here on the gantry, and this motor goes over there. It's going to be a fun day. We got 2 of these done so far. This one's looking pretty good. I like it a lot. Centered up pretty nice in there. Got everything Loctited, and it clears these 2 bolts right here. So I just Loctited these 2 gears. This one back here and this one up here. There's 2 set screws on that shaft, and I Loctited both of those. What I haven't Loctited yet is this gear out here, because this is what's actually going to engage with the table. And I don't really know exactly where that rack gear is going to sit because I haven't put it on the table yet. So this is a good way to leave me a little bit of flexibility if I need it later on down the line. For this poor fly, dude, last one of the year. It's getting freezing out here. The shaft motion. Do this one in real time, just so you can kind of see a little bit more detail what's actually involved. There's no reason for you guys to watch 3 of these, which are basically identical situations for the most part, as far as what needs to be done here. But I already had this pre-assembled because I was doing some bench testing. I got the motors all spinning. This is really the part that I'm worried about, because the metal fabrication, I do that for a living. I really wasn't worried about building a table or getting this thing square or cutting out the pieces and all that. The part that I am really learning here is the CNC portion with the motors and the computer. So I really wouldn't have known where to start at all had it not been for these kits. It really makes it possible for somebody like me who's just a simple metal fabricator and lets me take on one of these projects that otherwise I would have no business messing with. Woof. Sorry about that. I'm gonna whack-a-doodle, you guys. And I got a new fancy little light. Woo. Hope you guys see a little bit better some of these tight spots, I'm hoping. Alright, so where it sits right now, and I had to flip these gears around, these big ones. On this side, I've got the collar of the gear facing this way, and this one I've got the collar on the gear facing the opposite direction. So I'm gonna have to pull this guy off, get it spun around. So just loosen that up for now. But for now I don't really want any tension because I'm trying to get this guy off and flipped around. I'd rather not fight anything that I don't have to. And nice toy like a tiger. If you just leave these loose, sometimes that belt won't really fall into place where it's actually gonna land. Unless you put a little bit of tension on the belt, helps it track into place. You can barely even reach that little tiny bolt in there. And this is about where the other one was. It's all the way totally tight up against there. Alright, there we go. You can watch it kind of line itself back up where it's going to sit. Little detail stuff. Not what I was cut out for. First putting these together, I didn't really know what the hell I was doing. Not that I do now. If I ever did this again, I definitely go ahead and put it on one plate first, like that, because that made it pretty nice. It held everything else in place while I was working on the other pieces. Put this around to the other side. Okay, we got the gear reduction units all assembled and partway Loctited down. The really tough stuff to get inside the gear reduction units is now got some Loctite on it to hold it in place. And the stuff that's on the outside is going to be a little bit easier. I'm hoping to get to is not Loctited yet, so we can still do a little bit of fine adjustment, a little bit of tuning and tweaking, but not much more now that it's Loctited in. You guys remember we tapped these holes in another episode. I haven't really tapped anything on this yet. I'm kind of waiting to see if it requires any threads to be put into it or if everything bolts, so we'll just have to see when we get there. And there's this little bracket, you know, it's kind of like one of those extra parts in a kit that you just really kind of wonder why it's sitting around, and I have no idea where it goes yet. I'm hoping that becomes pretty apparent in just a minute here. Yeah, let's get rocking on a couple of these, and we'll do that real quick, and then I'll slow down on the last one and show you guys how it goes on. All right? Looks like I got a little bit ahead of myself. I didn't put the rack gear on here yet, so putting these motors on is all fine and dandy, and now you can kind of see how this whole thing fits on there. Motor stuffed back down inside that hole right there. And there's our gear reduction unit. This is the drive gear that's actually going to engage with the rack. So I really need to get that rack gear in there first, and then I can slide this in to the rack gear and bolted up. Otherwise, it's just going to be double work. So let's go ahead and get that knocked out. Got a rack gear right here that I cut yesterday and welded together is held on by basically some double-sided tape. This is kind of a surprise, but I checked on his website, Precision Plasma, and he swears by this stuff. I'm pretty sure he's an engineer because the calculations he throws out and the level of detail he's gone in this kit just makes me trust the guy, I guess. And also 3M, if you've ever used any of their products, they're pretty much top notch when it comes to, you know, tape and industrial products like this. So besides, it even says super strength holding tape, cinta para moldeo de alta resistencia, if you're a Spanish speaker. Anyways, so since it says super, I'm gonna go ahead and trust it. I'm pretty sure it's gonna work. It's super tape. And this cold rolled steel comes from the steel yard with this big nasty grease buildup on it. So this is your best friend. Some dollar store glass cleaner and some old paper towels will do the trick. Wipe everything down really nice until your paper towel starts coming off clean, because if you don't give this tape something good to stick to, it's not going to last. So let's go ahead and mount these rack gears up. I've got this all cleaned up back underneath here, and then I went ahead and cleaned up the back side of this as well. I also threw up these two little stands here. It's got 12 foot of table, so as I'm wrestling one side, I'm hoping that stand down there will hold the other end for me as I can slowly work this in with the tape. Alright, if you can see here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 clamps on it. I worked a clamp all the way up and down the whole run trying to get this tape to stick, and I'm just not sure if it's sticking. So I've had it up there for a few minutes. A bunch of clamps have been pushing on it and everything everywhere, and it's time to pull these clamps off and see what kind of shape we're in. So much for the tape theory. So that doesn't really give me much faith in this tape holding up long term. See, you can see it's already coming off right here too. It didn't even stick. I really tried to give that tape a shot, but it's not holding. So got my clamps all lined up all the way down here, and I've got just a little tiny window here to put a tack, and basically I can go from here and float it up that puddle, you know, about 1/8 of an inch maybe is all I've got, and then I'm going to be into where the bearing actually contacts this rail, and then I'm going to mess with the travel of the table. So I really don't want to get too high up into this, so I'm going to start my weld down here on this piece of metal, and then I'm going to float the puddle up and just let it wash over. Being as he was just going to put this on with tape, I'm guessing that it's not going to take a whole lot of weld to hold that on there. So I'm just going to kind of barely tack it, really slowly work my way down. Hopefully that does the job. I mean, what are my options, right? Go get some more tape? Fuck that. I don't trust tape. Boing. Contact. Alright, wish me luck. So I cleaned this one a little bit differently. I trashed the glass cleaner and I switched over to some rubbing alcohol because that's what it said to do on the instructions. Imagine that, reading the instructions might help. So I'm gonna go down here, and it felt like it stuck better than the last one. Take these clamps off. See if we stick, and we are. So maybe that was my problem on the other side, is I just don't know how to use tape. Yeah, see, this one's sticking a lot better over here. So maybe that was my issue, I was just cleaning with the wrong thing. But either way, I didn't let it stop me. Why get broke down for something stupid like tape? So we got that side welded, this side's taped up. I'll just leave it and we'll see if it sticks, you know? We got one more gear rack to put in up here. And before we do that, I say we go ahead and mount up that X-axis motor. A little Freudian slip there. Up here, and we'll see kind of elevation-wise how high or low to put this rack gear. And then we'll probably make some marks along down the way and do our thing. All right, let's keep cruising. I got the other two gear reduction units on, and now we're on to the third one. So I'm slowing it down, just to kind of show you guys how it all fits up in here. Really not too terribly tricky. Got our bolts, got our socket, got our gear reduction unit. So pretty straightforward, just 4 bolts. Not sure exactly what to do with this thing yet, so I'm just kind of wrapping it around like so, and stuffing it in there. And the tricky part is really getting these holes lined up while engaging the teeth of the gear. Yeah, so basically, just kind of make one of these. Oh shit. Once you get one in there, then you kind of jog that gear back until all these other holes line up. And that one that you make first over here will kind of act as like a pivot point. Keep everything else in the correct plane, at least while you rotate it around. Makes it a little bit easier to line all this stuff up. Got it tight. Dude, I am fucking excited. This is so cool. Actually putting the motors on the table. Oh, I've been waiting for this day for a long, long time. Let's get one snugged on each side. That should hold it at elevation. Hang this up right out of the way. All right, guys, check out this action. 1 motor, 2 motors, 3 motors. The X-axis we had mounted up here, but we had to take it off to work on the Z. So if you remember from algebra, which I barely do because I failed it and had to retake it until I finally figured it out well enough for them to push me on to the next step. X, Y, and Z is our height control. So I went ahead and bit the bullet and got the fancy Z-axis. Oh man, so shiny under the light. Man, it's like the home shopping network in here. Flashing shiny lights on everything. Glitters like a bass boat in the sunshine. We got both these sides done, and when I look through here, I finally think I figured out what this random little bracket's for. In this picture, it shows the cable track mounting to the side carriage, and it looks like it's held on by one of these pieces. So glad we finally figured that out. Let's go ahead and put this thing together. This day has been a long time coming. I've been itching to get my hands on this gantry and start working on it pretty much since I started this build, and I've been holding myself back to get to this point, and it feels really nice to actually have this portion of the build complete. Belt's nice and even, locking in with this rack gear right here, really nice. Here's that little bracket, finally figured out what the heck it does. It connects here to this cable track. I'm kind of at a stopping point anyways with the holiday coming up. V-rail, nice and mounted up, looking fresh as fuck. And this is just cool, man. I mean, it looks a lot more complicated than it is. It's really just the sum of its parts. Note to self, don't push on that. And finally, our last little lonely gear reduction unit over here, looking nice. Let's see what kind of... Whoops! Oh, I'm trying to think next steps here. It's gonna be some computer work. Not looking forward to that part of it, but that's one of the big adventures of this project, is learning something new. I'm a metal fabricator, I already know how to do that. And it's nice to show you guys, you know, how to fabricate metal and some of the different possibilities and techniques of doing that. But I'm really here trying to take it to the next step and learn more and become more proficient at more things. And really the next step for me, I think, is in the digital space instead of here in the physical world. I mean, I guess that sounds weird, but the next step for me is in the digital space, where I really need to bridge that gap between my physical abilities and some of the design software and website and YouTube stuff that, you know, I just thought kind of took care of itself. And now that I'm in it and realizing what it takes, I have a lot more respect for people that build websites and software programs and design projects in 3D and 2D in software programs. It's a lot more work than I thought it was going to be, but it's also fun to learn something that's kind of hard. I mean, a big reason why I got into welding, I think, is because I failed it in high school, and my shop teacher told me I would never weld. And for whatever reason, when people tell me stuff like that, it just really makes me want to do it. And I don't stop until I figure it out and prove them wrong. So that's gotten me into trouble also, being that stubborn, but I think it's also got me to some cool spots like this, where I have this big pile of parts here in my shop that I'm hoping will do something really useful soon here. So the next step will be, the computer, and getting these motors to do what we want them to do, how we want them to do, in time with each other, yada yada yada. And we'll see if all the hard work that we've done out here in the shop has paid off with a useful plasma table that can actually cut square square and circle circle and give me some decent repeatability out here instead of cutting everything out by hand like I have been. Alright, wish me luck, subscribe, like, comment. I like hearing from you guys. It's really cool to hear what you have to say, and the questions and the feedback are usually really spot on, except for a few spam here and there. But I'm really having fun connecting with you guys and learning about your projects even. I had a lot of people like, hey, I'm doing the same thing. I would do it like this, or, you know, just give me good tips, or just like attaboys, and it's really nice to hear that kind of stuff. So stay tuned, there's more videos to come. We got to finish this plasma table, and I've got a whole bunch of ideas for other stuff I want to do, like teach you guys how to weld if you're interested, and also more fabrication techniques so you can be more efficient and have more fun in your shop. All right, guys, talk to you later. Bye.